Today's lesson is called The Evolution of Music Listening. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.And
I'm Roger, and today we're going to be talking about music, specifically listening to music. You know, every once in a while we fancy a good tune. We'd like to hear a song, and it's pretty easy these days. We can go online, and what I do is listen to videos on YouTube, but I know my daughter goes to Spotify to hear her music. How about you, Jeff?
I actually go on YouTube myself as well. Most everything that I want to listen to is there in one way or another, or one way, shape, or form. Spotify, I haven't actually downloaded that app, but I've heard good things about it. But me, when I listen to music, YouTube is there. And also, I've got an Amazon Echo there so I can play some music, ask Alexa to play me some music and stuff like that. But yes, music listening these days is pretty easy. But think back a couple of hundred years, there was no electricity, let alone the internet or anything like that. So how did you hear music? You had to have someone play it for you on a guitar or something. And let's say if you were a rich person and you wanted to hear some good music, you might have to go to the symphony hall and have an orchestra play for you and a group of people and stuff like that. That's no longer the case, though. Music listening is easier than ever. It has evolved over the years. Anyways, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break right now, but when we come back, we'll start reading from our lesson called The Evolution of Music Listening.
The Evolution of Music Listening. Most people listen to music digitally these days by either downloading or streaming tunes via a smartphone or computer. But accessing recorded music wasn't always this easy.Here's a look at how music listening has evolved through the ages.
大家好，标题中我们看到名词 evolution 指演变发展的过程。例如 Many of the details of human evolution are still imperfectly understood. 人类演化的过程尚有诸多细节未能通盘厘清。或是The evolution of the home computer over the past 2 decades has been quite incredible. 家用电脑在过去20年间的发展颇为惊人。另外，补充这个字的动词 evolve, E-V-O-L-V-E, evolve 指演进、演变，像是 Cell phone technology rapidly evolves with new advancements each year. 手机科技迅速演进，每年都有新的进展。或是The misunderstanding evolved into a huge argument. 这场误会演变成激烈的争吵。接下来我们看到一个单字 digitally. 这个字是副词，指数位的。我们可以说 All of the music on the album was created digitally with a computer. 该专辑里的所有音乐都是用电脑以数位方式创作而成。另外，这个字去掉字尾 ly 就成了形容词 digital, 意思是数位的，像是The clothing store has started to focus on digital sales. 那间服饰店开始把重心放在数位销售。
Okay, in the first paragraph there, we've got the verb to evolve, and in the title, we've got the noun form, evolution, to evolve and evolution as the noun. So we're talking about the evolution of music listening, how it has changed over time. Of course, when we see the word evolution, we oftentimes think of human evolution. You know, did we descend from a common ancestor to apes and things like that? That is kind of controversial, but I guess it is accepted science. Evolution is science fact, how things change over long periods of time.
There you go. The verb is to evolve. The noun is evolution. Charles Darwin, I believe, was the person who came up with the theory of evolution. Anyways, though, today we're not talking about animals, we're talking about music. The evolution of music listening, how people have listened to music over time and how that has changed over time. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. The first sentence says, most people listen to music digitally these days by either downloading or streaming tunes via a smartphone or computer. And yes, this is true for me, although I usually stream those tunes on YouTube, let's say, or I have my Amazon Echo play them for me. I don't usually download music and listen to that, but I do often download podcasts and listen to those, and it's very easy to download these things digitally, i.e. on a computer or with a computer.
Yep, having to do with the computer, digital or digitally has to do with digits, which at the most basic meaning means fingers, but digitally usually refers to 0 and 1 and bits and things like that, all having to do with digits. And I guess I listen to music digitally through my computer. I mostly listen to streams. There's a couple I listen to. I listen to Radio K, I listen to D&B Radio, and Psychedelicized. They're some of my favorite streams.
Psychedelicized. Wow. That's a mouthful, but that's like hippie music from the 1960s. Is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I also have a hip-hop channel that I listen to quite frequently.
Sounds good. I might have to look that up. Anyways, moving on, the next sentence says, but accessing recorded music wasn't always this easy. By the way, if you access something, you are able to get that thing, okay? It's at your disposal if you just go ahead and go there and get it or obtain it in some way. And these days we've got recorded music, okay? We can record music and put it on tapes, records, CDs, so on and so forth, okay? We can do that and then we can access those recordings. Not only that, we don't even have to have those recordings on our devices now. The internet, I should say, allows us to access those things. So, man, music listening is easier than ever, but that wasn't always the case. Before there was electricity, you would have to hire someone, let's say, to play music for you. If you were a rich person, maybe you went to an orchestra hall and listened to an orchestra play for you, or maybe you hired a string quartet to play music during one of your parties or something like that. If you weren't so rich, maybe you invite a folk singer to your party around the fire there, and they'll play songs on their guitar. That's the only way that you were going to hear any music because, hey, one, there was no electricity, and two, there was no way to record that music.
I think a lot of people bought sheet music back in the day and then played it themselves on the piano or guitar if they could play those instruments. But nowadays we can access recorded music digitally, but it hasn't always been this way. So here's a look at how music listening has evolved through the ages, okay? How it has changed and how it has gotten to where it is today. Let's move on now to the next paragraph. Let's listen to it first and then let's talk about it.
In the beginning, there was the phonograph, the first device for recording and playing back music. Invented by Thomas Edison in 1877, it inscribed sounds onto a metal sheet wrapped around a cylinder. The sound quality left much to be desired, and each recording could be played back only once. Still, the phonograph was a revolutionary invention for its time. Around a decade later, German-American inventor Emil Berliner came up with an invention that significantly improved upon the phonograph. Berliner patented his device as the gramophone, which read audio information from a glass disc or record.
第二部分我们看到一个动词 inscribe 指刻、雕字、题写。例如 The city inscribed the names of its founders on a plaque in a central square. 该市在中央广场的一座牌匾上铭刻了建成者的名字。另外补充一个同义动词 engrave E-N-G-R-A-V-E engrave 指在点点点上雕刻字或图案。举例来说 Judy had the date of her wedding engraved onto her ring. Judy 把她的结婚日期刻在戒指上。再来我们看到一个单字 cylinder 这个字是名词，指圆筒、圆柱体，像是 roll your paper into a cylinder and then tape the ends 把你的纸卷进一个圆筒里，然后把两边底端用胶带粘起来。接着我们看到形容词 revolutionary 指革命性的，产生重大变革的，革命的。举例来说 A revolutionary new technology is changing the way people pay for things. 一项革命性的新科技正在改变人们的付款方式。 另外，补充这个字的动词 revolutionize, R-E-V-O-L-U-T-I-O-N-I-Z-E, revolutionize, 只给点点点带来革命性变革。我们可以说 The chef revolutionized modern French cuisine. 那位厨师为现代法式料理带来革新。
Okay, nowadays, music listening is really super easy. Now, how did we get to this point in history? Let's start learning about that right now. In the beginning, at the outset, there was the phonograph, the first device for recording and playing back music. So before the break there, I was talking about, hey, nowadays you've got CDs and tapes and records and MP3s, stuff on the internet, stuff that you can download. But long ago, you could not record music. You would have to have that played. And let's say you wanted to write that down, you'd have to know how to write and then also read music if you wanted to play that music back. But Thomas Edison one day came up with the phonograph, and for the first time in history, we had a device that could record and then also play back music. How about that? By the way, here we have the word device. A device is a tool. Usually it's a simple machine, or maybe not so simple a machine, that is designed to carry out a specific task. A device is a tool that is meant to do something particular in most cases.
That's right. Of course, we all carry devices every day, our smartphones, our tablet computers, or whatever. Those are the most popular devices or the most common devices. But going back, about 120 years or so, we had the phonograph, and that was the first device for recording and then playing back music. So yes, they put the device in front of a band or something, and then they record their song. I think they have to do it in one take. They didn't have multi-tracks back then, and they didn't have stereo. It was just mono. So they recorded it, and then they could play it back. That was a big event in the evolution of music reproduction.
Anyways, invented by Thomas Edison in 1877, the phonograph, inscribed sounds onto a metal sheet wrapped around a cylinder. Nowadays, we have MP3 players, we have special music players inside of our phones and stuff like that, but back in the day, well, recording wasn't so simple. Playing back music wasn't so simple. Apparently, the phonograph, if you wanted it to work, it would have to first inscribe sounds onto a metal sheet wrapped around a cylinder. Wow, it sounds kind of bulky to me, Roger.
Yep, sounds kind of clumsy and cumbersome and complicated, but they were able to record a sound by inscribing those sounds or vibrations onto a metal sheet that was then wrapped around a cylinder, not a disc, which we're used to today. It was actually a cylinder, like a can of Coke or something like that. That's what a cylinder is. And so we've got the verb to inscribe here. Basically, that means to write or carve something on a surface. Like if you go to temples in Taiwan, you will see the names of donors inscribed on the walls. They will carve their names into the wall to show that they gave money to the temple for its construction or whatever.
There you go. So the first phonograph there, it was kind of bulky and big. It's not nearly as sophisticated as the MP3 players and stuff like that you find on modern digital devices. And get this, the sound quality that you got when you recorded sound on this phonograph and then played it back, well, it wasn't so good. The next sentence says, the sound quality left much to be desired, i.e., the sound quality wasn't that good. Sure, you got a record out of it, but did it sound good? No. Was the sound true to life? Not even close. The sound quality left much to be desired. And get this, each recording could be played back only once. So this whole idea of downloading an MP3 and listening to that on repeat over and over and over again, that did not exist for the first phonograph, okay? It says here that you could record a song and then only play it back one time. Now, this sounds awful, right? This sounds like a useless contraption. Sure. Still, though, the phonograph was a revolutionary invention for its time.
It was revolutionary indeed. Even though the sound quality was really bad, again, it left much to be desired. It was just really poor. We use that phrase a lot of times to talk about something being of poor quality, like, well, Tom has been practicing for a long time, but still his singing ability leaves much to be desired. It's still really, really bad. And we're talking about this phonograph as being revolutionary. It was like a revolution. It was a big change. A revolution usually is some kind of military movement to overthrow a government, like the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, etc., etc. And this is an adjective here describing something of a big change. It was revolutionary. It was really big. People got really excited about it.
Yeah, very often when people talk about technology these days, they say, oh, this is going to change the world. This is world-changing. This is revolutionary. Well, that term gets thrown around way too often these days, but back in 1877, this first phonograph really did change everything. It was revolutionary. Now, moving forward, the next sentence says, around a decade later, after the phonograph was invented, German-American inventor Emil Berliner came up with an invention that significantly improved upon the phonograph. So remember, the original sound quality of the phonograph wasn't so good, so that was the first thing that got improved. Now, Berliner patented his device as the gramophone, which read audio information from a glass disc or record.
Patented, that's a verb. It could also be a noun. It's just banquan. It means you apply to the government and then nobody can steal your idea. And in this particular case, audio refers to the sound of some kind of media. Video is the picture nowadays. Audio is the sound. So they weren't able to just play it one time. They could probably play it many times because the information was read from a glass disc or a record. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's move on now to the third part.
Eventually, the gramophone paved the way for the record player, and vinyl soon replaced glass as the material for records. The first record player, released for sale in 1895, consisted of a turntable and speaker. A few years later, lone turntables hit the market, becoming popular with those who wanted higher quality sounds that only external speakers could provide.
第三部分我们看到一个单字 vinyl， 这个字是名词，指乙烯基黑胶唱片塑料，像是 I still keep the old vinyl record player that was bought by my grandfather。 我仍然保留着我祖父买的旧黑胶唱片机。最后我们看到形容词 external， 指外部的、外来的。举例来说 That special skin cream is for external use only。 那款特殊的皮肤乳液仅限于外用。另外补充一个反义形容词 internal， I-N-T-E-R-N-A-L internal， 指体内的、内部的。我们可以说 After the medical exam, the doctor told me that my internal organs are healthy。 在医疗检查之后，医生跟我说我的内脏器官很健康。
Okay, moving on. We started by talking about the phonograph. Then we moved on to the gramophone. Eventually, after a little while there, the gramophone paved the way for the record player, and vinyl soon replaced glass as the material for records, which makes total sense. Why would you want a glass disc that could break? That makes no sense at all. Vinyl is better for this particular purpose. Now, it says here that the gramophone paved the way for the record player, i.e., the gramophone made it easy for the record player to be developed in some way.
Yeah, pave the way. Basically, you're referring to paving a road there. It just makes something possible. So it made it possible for the record player to exist. And then vinyl, which of course is the substance that records are made out of nowadays, replaced glass for the material for records. And the first record player released for sale in 1895 consisted of a turntable and speaker. So to consist of just means it includes these things. That's what it had. A turntable, something that spins in circles like a record player, and also a speaker for the sound to come out.
Yep, and a few years later, lone turntables hit the market, becoming popular with those who wanted higher quality sounds that only external speakers could provide. So there you go. It sounds like the modern stereo is well on its way to being developed at this particular point in time. Why do I say that? Because you can't have a stereo, a good stereo, without speakers, external speakers. By the way, if something is external, it's on the outside of something. It's not on the inside. It's not internal to that thing. It is external.
And that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. We'll come back next time and talk some more about it, but right now we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。这篇文章的标题是 The Evolution of Music Listening， 其中这个补充单字 evolution 它表示演变发展的过程。那在课文第一部分我们也有看到它的动词是 evolve， 那我们来学习它的字首字根。好，字首 E是来自 EX 表示向外，那么 VOLVE volve 这个部分它这个字根有转动啊改变的意思。那同学们可以用这种向外转动慢慢去扩展的那个意象呢来联想 evolve 它有逐步形成或是演进发展的意思。顺便补充两个有相同字根的单字，第一个 involve， 好 in 这个 in 的部分它表示 into 进入的意思，那么 volve 表示 roll 就是转动滚动，滚动进来应该很容易联想到这个 involve 它有卷入的意思嘛，那么它就是表达说使什么卷入啊牵连或是包含。好，第二个补充的是 revolve， 它的字首 re 有返回再度的意思，那么 volve 表示转动，合在一起 revolve 就有旋转绕着转的意思。那么它的名词 revolution 可以指旋转，也可以指革命或是重大变革，那我们就可以用这种翻转政局去联想到这个 revolution 有革命的意思，也许可以这样想啦。好，那我们在 revolution 后面加上形容词字尾 ARY 就会得到 revolutionary， 那这个字在课文第二部分就有出现，它就表示革命的、革命性的或是产生重大变革的。好，课文第二部分写到说，留声机将声音刻在包覆于圆柱体的金属板上，这边用到一个补充单字 inscribe 来表达刻这个动作，我们也来学它的字首字根。好，先来看SCRIBE scribe 本身呢是一个单字，它可以当名词和动词用。当名词可以指抄写员，那么当动词可以指刻画。好，那么 scribe 当字根则是表达 write 的意思，也就是书写，有时候它可能会拼作 SCRIB。 好，那么在 inscribe 这个字当中呢，它的字首 INN 表示在内或者是在上面，那么 scribe 表示写，所以合在一起 inscribe 它就有这个刻啊雕啊，像是刻字雕字或是题写的意思。像我们要表达说在书上面题字，在奖杯上面刻字，你就可以用 inscribe 这个字表达咯。那么顺便补充有相同字根的单字，第一个 describe 我们知道它有描述的意思嘛，好，来看它的字首 DE 表示 down 就是下，那么字根 scribe 表示 write 书写，所以从字首字根来看它就是有 write down 的意思咯。那么 describe 就是表达描述描写。好，第二个补充的是 subscribe， 它的字首 SUB 表示下方， scribe 表示写。同学们可以试着联想，我们在文件的下方写上自己的名字去签名，表示同意啊，表示要订购之类的行为，所以 subscribe 就有订阅订购的意思咯。那么第三个补充的是 prescribe，它的字首 PRE 表示在什么什么之前， scribe 表示写。那么医生要开处方签就是事先写下指示，让你之后可以去药局领药嘛，所以我们就可以用这样方式去想说 prescribe 它有 开药、开处方的那个开的动作咯。那么这个字它也有规定的意思。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Digitally. These days, most people store their photographs digitally instead of sticking them in albums. Access. Only the top people in the company can access those files. Device. This device tests whether water is clean enough to drink. Revolutionary. At the time, nobody fully realized how much the revolutionary idea would change the world. Patent. The man failed to patent his invention, and so he never made any money from it. Audio.
The recording studio spent a lot of money on new audio equipment.
External. It's a good idea to use an external hard drive to back up your computer files.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.